making your content accessible, Microsoft. We're going to talk about Microsoft PowerPoint and Microsoft Word. So my name is Ginger Bidell. I'm from Buffalo State, and I'm an instructional designer. My job is to work with faculty members who are developing online courses or incorporating technology into face-to-face courses or blended courses. And I also am a part of our accessibility initiative on campus. So I work with another instructional designer to provide workshops on accessibility. We actually have a brand new certificate program, specialization for accessibility, where we have, I think, 5 workshops. We have a Word workshop, PowerPoint, audio and video, third-party resources, and using Blackboard in a way that's accessible. And if faculty members come to all of those, then they can earn a certificate, which is nice, something to put on your resume. So something that I want to share with you, I actually do have handouts, and I'll pass them out in just a minute, but this could be, if you're interested in learning more about accessibility, a really great resource. I'll give you a minute to write it down or take a picture of it if you haven't done it already, and then I'm going to click on the link and just show you around the website. Are we good? I don't see anyone writing. Is it okay? Great. So this is our instructional design webpage, and my boss, Megan Pereira, myself, and Sumana Silverhills from Disability Services, we developed this website for our faculty members and staff members to help them kind of self-service themselves to figure out how to make content accessible. And also, we've actually just shared it out a lot at conferences and things, and so I think actually a lot of other campuses are using this as well. The first thing I'll show you is a link to the Fact2 accessibility website. Megan and I were on a Fact2 task group last year to develop an accessibility website. So this right here is actually a great resource in itself. You have the home page, you have Accessibility Matters, which really talks about some of the stuff that was shared this morning, why we need to do this. And there's accessibility training. So these are really great resources. These are video recordings of webinars that were done through SUNY Center for Professional Development. So we have a recording of all of the workshops here. We have Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, audio and video, and then we did Universal Design and Accessibility for Online Learning. They're between 40 minutes and an hour. They're captioned. So if you aren't able to attend a training somewhere, or maybe you forget how to do some of the things that I showed you today, this is a good resource to use for review. Then we have this tab talks about, so if you're choosing materials for your course, or you're choosing textbooks, or choosing technologies for your course, just the questions that you want to consider, maybe asking publishers to make sure that the content's accessible. And then the resources tab has a few additional resources. So this is a good website to start to, if you have a question about accessibility, maybe you can start here. And then on our website, we also have tabs specifically for the workshops that we offer. So we have audio and video. So I did that workshop earlier today. So we have, just trying to make things self-service for our faculty members. So if they have created video and now they need to edit the automatic captions in YouTube, this is how you do it. If you need to add captions to your YouTube video, by uploading the script, this is how you do it. If you're searching for YouTube caption videos, we have information about Ensemble, which is the media server that we use, and other information. The Microsoft Office is really what we're talking about today in this workshop. So we have this checklist here, which I'll go ahead and pass out.
Oh, I can pass it out for you, if I can disentangle myself.
So it has Microsoft Word on one side and PowerPoint on the back. And then, so we have the paper checklist, but we also have the same things that are on the checklist here on our website. And what we did for anything where we thought someone might not know how to do it, so the first one's simple as best, minimize the use of colors. That's pretty easy to do. But if you are trying to designate header rows for tables, you might not know how to do that. So for anything that we thought you might need support, we tried to offer both text directions and video directions. Some of them we couldn't find both. So it's Microsoft Word up above, and then down below we have PowerPoint. So again, the things that I'm showing you today, if you forget, it's okay, because you have this website and you can refer back to it. But like once you've seen it, it'll be easier even to follow the directions on the website. And then we also have information about PDFs and student submissions. All right, does anyone have any questions about the website or any of these resources? All right. So it's interesting. So Whitney shared a cartoon earlier about the different animals, and they all have to complete the same test. They're obviously not all going to be successful. This is another cartoon that kind of makes actually the same point. So here, this person in a wheelchair saying, "Can you please shovel the ramp so we can go up the ramp?" And the man saying, "All these other kids are waiting to use the stairs, so when I get through shoveling them up, then I'll clear the ramp for you." And the kid in the wheelchair says, "But if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in." So, clearing a path for people with special needs clears the path for everyone. And that kind of gives the message of universal design for learning. When we are, instead of just making accommodations for specific cases, if we provide those accommodations, we're thinking about the way if we're implementing this accessibility into our course to start with, into our teaching to start with, it really makes things more accessible by everyone. So just because I'm not hard of hearing doesn't mean that I can't benefit from having captions. There's a lot of different ways that people use. In a study done by Preplay Media, they found that 80% of people who use closed captioning in videos are not hard of hearing. They use them because they're in the gym, they use them because they're in a bar, they use them because they're in an airport, for a lot of other reasons. And educationally, if students are able to see the text, especially when it's new vocabulary that they're learning, it's going to be a lot easier for them. They're getting the information two ways. They're hearing it, they're hearing how to pronounce the word, they're seeing how to spell the word, and that's going to help them learn it. So again, making things accessible for everyone from the get-go just makes things better for everyone. So talking about Microsoft Office, specifically PowerPoint and Word, the software is accessible. There are accessibility features in the software. It's how we use it, at least how I used to use it, that makes it inaccessible. So a lot of us learn to use Office products just, kind of by trial and error. And actually, I even in college took a course, for how to use it, but I was never taught how to use the accessibility features in Microsoft Office. So it's something new that I learned when I started becoming interested in working in accessibility. So, what I'm going to do today is basically show you these accessibility features in Word and PowerPoint, and then it's just a matter of just changing the, not really doing more work, just changing the way that you create things from the beginning. So I passed out the checklist. So first we're going to talk about Microsoft Word, and I'm actually going to add a Word document here. And, actually, I want those checklists.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's right. I think I have everything on there, but so when you're designing Word documents, in general, simple is best. I know sometimes it isn't as fancy or, creative to have things laid out simply, but it does make things in the document more accessible. So using a font like Tahoma, having 12-point font, that just if you think about sometimes when people who are very creative will use like the cursive text and things like that, that can be really hard to read. And so while it looks nice, it's really not as accessible. So simple is best. You want to minimize the use of color. That's something else that a lot of people will do, is that they will use color to draw attention to something. If you think about someone who's colorblind, that isn't going to help them. So you wouldn't want to make it so that someone was only going to get that important information if they can see that color. for instance, if I had a chart and I said all the assignments that are in green are due on Tuesday and all the assignments that are in red are due on Saturdays, if I'm colorblind, I have no idea. Or, and this happens a lot, students print it with a non-color printer. And so again, the color, and this is again, we're making this accommodation for someone who's colorblind, but the accommodation is helping anyone who's printing the document or in some cases, maybe I have color copies, but if I gave these to Ellen, she doesn't have access to a color printer, so she's copying it on the copier. That's not, if I had used color to indicate important information, the person getting those handouts wouldn't be able to see it. So if you want to, if you want to use color, that's okay, but you don't want to use it to make a point or to communicate information. The next thing on this list is save files as a DOC file or a PDF file, because that makes them easier for students. They're more easily downloadable. So on our campus, we use Office 2016, 15, most current version, but not everybody has that version. So a lot of times I get files from instructors who might be using, at home Microsoft 2003, and so if I'm using the most current version and sharing them in my course, students who have older versions might not be able to open the files, but it's really easy when you save the file to do save as and save it in an older format. So that makes it, anybody who has any version of Microsoft Office should be able to open it. Another thing that you can do that's actually even better is if the file that you're sharing with them is something that they don't have to type into or edit, to just save it as a PDF file and put it and upload it that way, because first of all, it opens nicer. You don't have to do the little box pops up and you have to save it or open it. The PDFs just open really nicely. And let's say I don't have any Microsoft Office products. A PDF is you can get Adobe for free, so anybody really should be able to access a PDF. So just thinking about that as you're putting content in Blackboard, whether you have an online or face-to-face course, whenever you can, save it as a PDF and upload it that way. And if it is a Word document they have to type into, just saving it in an older file type. So the next thing is on here, avoid using text boxes. Screen readers get stuck in text boxes. So if there's a student who is using a screen reader, someone who might be blind, or is not able to, visually impaired in some way, using a screen reader, the screen readers get stuck and they don't necessarily, depending on the screen reader, it might skip it completely or it might get stuck, but a lot of times it misses the information that's in the text box, which is obviously, you're trying to draw attention to that information probably by putting it in a text box. So you can actually use borders. There's a tool in Word here where you can actually, so I wanted to put this title in a text box. I could use these border tools to create this, if I really needed to. I could create the same effect by just putting a border around the word, and then the screen reader will read it just fine. But maybe you just don't need the text box. The next thing on the list, you'll want to use the tab key rather than the space bar when indenting or spacing. So this again is just a convenience for someone who's using a screen reader. If you, let's just say, I spaced to move this all the way over to the center. Some screen readers would read space, 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 space. So just as a convenience, it's easy. It's better to just use the tab key or use the enter key. Tables. So, and I don't know if any of you were here for Dan's presentation. So sometimes we use tables just because they look nice, but not necessarily because we need to. So if you're providing text information, not necessarily data, maybe the best way to do it isn't necessarily in a table. But if you are going to use a table, there's a way in Word, and I'll show you how to do it in a few minutes, to designate the header row so that the screen reader knows that this is the header row, and that helps the student who's listening know which information, which column this information is going with. And you also want to create an alt text tag for the table that tells them what the table is. And again, I'll show you how to do that. And you also want the table to be simple. Because if you think about it, if you close your eyes and I read across this to you, it would be fairly easy to realize, that Ginger goes with name and this, 122.16 goes with the date, the course. But if we were splitting cells or merging cells, and then the screen reader is going to read it straight across this way, but I have this merged, this split, it's going to be very hard for the person listening to it to have any idea, which columns the information goes with. So it's really best to not do that. The next thing on the list is for hyperlinks. So instead of using click here and putting the link on here or click here, students who are again listening to a screen reader won't have any idea where that link is going. So by providing descriptive text, they know. So for this link, they know it's going to read Buffalo State Accessibility website, and they know whether, okay, do I want to click on it and go there or don't I? But they'll just know where that link is supposed to go. And actually that's helpful for, again, universally designing. Let's just say this link breaks. The student knows where they're going at least, and that can help them try to figure out how to find it. But if it just says click here, they don't have any idea. So providing this is kind of nice for a screen reader because they know where it goes. If you're including the link this way, depending on what the link is, specifically like a link to Google where there's lots of crazy numbers and letters that don't make any sense, the screen reader is going to read that. So it's going to be like http:// x, like this. That's what the student who can't see is hearing. So, it's nice to let them know where they're going. A lot of times, if I'm giving students electronic documents, or actually printed documents, I'll do both. I'll give them this so that they can see where it's going and they can hear, the screen reader will tell them where it's going, but I'll also give them the link just in case they need to type it in. And next, so you want to provide alt text tags for all images and tables. So if you're including any type of visual resource, you want to also have a text component. So if you have a table, you want students to be able to, you want to use, there's a feature in Word that I'll show you how to use, where you can add a title and you can add a short description so that a student using a screen reader can know whatever the resource is. In this case, the other thing is that, pictures, you kind of want to try to use pictures that have some educational purpose. Like this one doesn't. And maybe it's just for decorations, but if I'm reading a screen reader, the screen reader might tell me that there's an image there, but if I don't have an alt text tag, they don't have any idea what the image is, and maybe it's important, but either way they don't know. So if I have an alt text tag here, it's going to say flowers, or you can even just put null in there and they know it was just like not an important image, or you could describe what the image is. And this next one, Dan actually again talked about earlier, and this is something that I never paid, I used Word a lot, I knew how to do a lot of things in Word, and I saw these up here, but I never paid any attention to them whatsoever. So the styles in Word, first of all, you can use them for consistency. So, and I did in this document, so for instance, this here is, I think, a title. So it is, it's a title. So if I clicked on heading 1, it would change it to the style of a heading 1. But if you use these features, so for the title of your document, you use title. For your primary points, you're using heading 1. For your secondary points, you're using heading 2. First of all, it makes your document consistent. So if you're like me, you're writing a long paper, you forget You're like, so, you know, so I'm bolding it and making it a little bit bigger, and then for my secondary points, I'm doing italic, but then I get confused and I forget. If you use these, it's going to be a lot easier to make your document consistency, so visually it looks better. But the best part about it is that if someone's using a screen reader, let's just say you give me your syllabus electronically, nicely, and it's 17 pages long, and I can't see.
That should never happen. Go on.
And I really just want to find out how much the final project's worth. But that, unfortunately, is on page 14. So if I'm using a screen reader, I have to listen to 13 pages being read to me before I get to that part. If you use these styles, the screen reader can skip through the headings. They can tell it, just read the headings, and they can skip right to the part that they need, which makes things so much easier for them. And so in addition to title and headings, there's also, and again, I never knew this, there is emphasis. So instead of using italics, which a screen reader won't acknowledge, you can, so if I wanted to make this in italics, I could just use emphasis. And the screen reader will read that. Or I can do strong. I can find it.
They're going down to the left.
There we go. And it's the same as both. I don't know why they're both there, but the screen reader will read these. It doesn't read bold and italics and things like that. So just getting in a habit instead of coming over here to do this, using this, can make a lot of difference for a student.
Does it really read it differently?
It does. It'll say strong or emphasis. It'll read it before so that they know.
This is important.
Right.
Can I ask Melanie a question?
Okay.
Can we have a screen reader so that if we're creating a document, we want to listen to it to see what it's going to sound like for the students?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
We have one that's available for the whole campus.
Just send like a help desk request to have it?
Actually, you can download it right on your computer.
Okay.
So I will get you that information.
Okay.
And yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's available to everybody out at Upper State, faculty,
So I
staff,
can look at
students.
some of the documents I already have to see how they.
Well, Crystal's going to try making it because she might.
It'll
Yeah, so-
depend on if you can install it on your own. It'll depend on who your technician is and what your availability on your
So if you have trouble seeing Crystal's, what I just heard.
call the help desk.
And
my technicians.
PDF.
Out, yeah.
So
Okay,
Adobe
perfect.
Reader actually has a reader in it, and it's not as good as some of the, like Rewrite Gold and some of those, but it will read your document for you to give you an idea of how it will read, and I'm going to show you how to do that.
Before you move on, so in Word, if you hit strong, that is bolded, and the screen reader will say it's bolded. But if you hit bold, it won't say it.
Yes.
Okay. When
So
you
I
save it
chose
as a
to
PDF,
Mhm.
does that still?
Yes, and
it
that
still
was
does.
actually the point I was going to make. So when you make your Word document accessible and then you save it as a PDF, all of those accessibility functions, all the tags and everything that you do carries over into the PDF.
Okay, and so also with this table that you have here, as you know, if you click that table, you have different options within Word to change the appearance of the table, like different colors and so on. Can screen readers deal with those alternative versions offered in Word?
I don't believe so. I think the thing that it will know is and I'm going to show you how to do it, you can designate the header row. So, and especially that's even important for students who are looking at it, because what that will do is if the table runs onto 2 pages, it'll put the header row at the top of the second page too. So
Okay.
that actually is really good for all the students. But I do not think, I think you could do strong and emphasis in the table, and that will read over. But if you're using colors and things like that, to my knowledge,
I mean, like the table itself is, is the table clicked right now? And if you go up to design, I think it's in design. If you click,
so I always do table properties.
oh no, I'm actually talking about the different appearances. And I think if you go up to design, click design. Oh, it's not there. Click page layout.
There's another design all the way over to the right that actually just corresponds.
Oh, is that where it
There you
is?
go.
Oh yeah, table styles, that's where it is. And if you click down on those different table styles, if you click, see these things? Will the screen readers read these
I think it just
versions?
reads all the text in it, like the same.
So all of these are fine and will be read by screen readers. It doesn't have to, the table can look like a yellow one here.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but it's
Yes.
not going to say, this is a yellow table. It won't do
that.
It won't say that, but
But
the
it-
information will still be
Right.
identical to, okay.
So by simple tables, I just mean you want to avoid merging cells or splitting cells. That's what,
Okay.
but you can use color. That's
Okay, all right.
All right. So another tool that was in Microsoft Word that I never knew about is an accessibility checker. Did anybody know there was an accessibility checker in Microsoft Word?
I did only because you told me.
Right. So after you create a document, you can actually go to File, and then there's this thing here that I've ignored for years and years. It says Check for Issues. And if you click on that, you can check the accessibility of your document. So we'll check it. This pane comes up. And so it's telling me I'm missing alt text for this table. And if I click on what the problem is, down here, it tells me why it's important to fix it, and it tells me how to fix it. So I right-click on the alt, to add alt, I'm going to right-click on the table, click Table Properties, then I'll go to the alt text tab, and I'll type in the description of the document. So if I go here, I right-click, I go to Table Properties, I'm going to go to alt text. You actually have an older version than we do.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which is why I was thinking, this looks a little bit strange. So this is actually a lot easier because in 2016, they had symbols. When I click on table properties, a pane comes up over here, and instead of saying table, row, column, cell, there are symbols. And so you have to you have to figure out how to get to the alt text tag, once you know how to do it, it's easy, but it's a lot easier in the old
Well,
version.
isn't that kind of ironic? Because what if somebody who has accessibility issues is trying to use the accessibility checker? How are the symbols
Well,
going
it's not
to-
for the accessibility checker, it's table properties or image
But
properties.
still.
Yeah.
They do it.
I have to ask a question, I've been tweeting about since you showed it.
Okay.
Is there any difference visually to a fully sighted person between the italicus and emphasis, strong and bold?
I don't believe
And
it.
if not, what is Microsoft thinking?
I know.
about making the
That's-
shortcuts for italics and bold just strong and emphasis?
I absolutely
Because
agree.
as somebody, I use those a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always expected that it just placed the emphasis within a screen reader as
Right.
you would by
Yeah.
going up to this other
Yeah,
location.
I absolutely agree with you. Why do you have two things to do the same thing? One
Well,
is
it
really
gets
better
back to
than
the
the
image
other.
that you had at the front. If they just plow the ramp, we could all use it, right?
Right, exactly. I agree. I
So you
totally
can
agree with you.
customize what it means to be strong, or, you can customize all those
It's very
factors.
philosophical to do.
I should be sitting over on that side of the room.
No, but you can adjust all those styles if you want.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point.
Well, I
I'll
want to,
show
but
you
I
the
don't
alt
want to have
text,
to.
and then you can customize the style. So say you hate the way that they're automatically set up in there, you can change them. So to put in alt text, so for this image, just putting, flowers, that's fine. If I have a table, or a graph or something like that, the alt text should provide the same information to a person who can't see as the image does to people who can see. So sometimes, depending on what the graphic is, you might need to have a pretty good description in there so that the person who can't see is getting the same information as the people who can. Yep.
Within the visually impaired community, is there an expected standard, like for images like your flowers that don't really bring anything?
They would just say null.
It
You would
would-
put null in the title and
Okay,
they
so
know,
That would like equate to like decorative or something
Right.
like that, they would understand that
Yep.
they're just looking at something pretty good.
yeah.
So with some images put in Word, there's a caption that you can put in.
Mhm.
Do screen readers not read the caption, or can they read the caption?
Oh.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't, honestly, I don't know. I don't know about that. Do you know, Melanie? So when you put in it, you can actually add underneath the picture, it isn't caption, it says,
Like a lot of tables and infographics will automatically have a caption, like figure 1 and then a description of it.
I think it's as long as it's not part of the actual image. If it's under it,
Oh,
it
you know
will
what,
read
this
it, but if
is-
it's part of the image, you would need to alt tag it, is my understanding. Now, I admit I could be dead wrong, but that's my understanding. If it's actually part of the image that you picked up and plunked on the page.
Well, I think he's referring to the actual caption option that goes along.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would just go ahead and put in the alt text tag because that
Okay.
way you
Yeah,
know that it's there.
I agree, that's probably the safest method is alt text.
And actually, this is what I was talking about. So here, like in the picture, the table is different. So if I'm trying to put an alt text on this picture, like I don't get that same box that comes up with alt text, but it's this third icon, layout and properties. If you click on that, then the alt text is here. And I can put it in. I'm going to close that for just a second. So I'm going to go ahead, right click on here, and I'll put my description in. And I'm not going to waste time type, but I am putting the title on there. And you can see that once I do it, it disappears from this. It knows that the error is fixed. And then the next one, picture 2. So again, it's telling me that this picture doesn't have, it's missing the alt text tag. So if I look here, it'll tell me why I need to fix it and how to fix it. So I can right click on the picture, click format picture. I'm going to go to this third icon and I'll just put null in here. And once I do that, that disappears from the warnings. Did you have a question?
One thing I've seen a couple campuses do is they create a custom menu for accessibility, you know, with links to like, there's a specific button for adding alt tags, and there's a specific button for the accessibility checker. And if you do that in your campus image,
and the image of the Microsoft off Word?
then
Yeah.
all the, then, you know, when the campus images machines all have that custom menu.
We should talk about that because that would be awesome if we could get ours to do that because we don't.
You can just add it to the menu.
Right, because I've actually noticed that your styles are different than our styles.
Yeah.
So they have obviously, Alfred is obviously customized, or at least either Buffalo State or Alfred.
Someone's
Customize them.
There was
because-
probably Buffalo State.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I wanted to show you this. So let's just say, and I actually like yours better than ours because ours, the title is blue, and I just want it to be black. So if I wanted to customize this, I could go to the title, and if I right click on it, I can modify it. And I can make it however I want it. And for the computer you're working on, you can say, on all new documents that I open, I'll use this customization. So you don't have to do it every single time. And then you can also, let's just say I already tagged all of the headings in this document, I can click this box and it'll automatically, so you know, if I was changing heading 1, everything that I had already designated as a heading 1 will change to my new preference. So again, these tools can actually make creating a document easier if you just, if I only knew that they were there in the first place. So now it's just changing habits. So the other thing on here is that it's picking up the unclear hyperlink text, and if I look at, it's telling me what the problem is that hyperlink text should provide a clear description of the link destination instead of providing only the URL. Well, I know that I have both. So I do have the clear description, but I also am putting the URL in there just in case. And so I know, you know, this isn't foolproof. I don't always have to listen to it. So I know that that's okay, and I can just let that go. So I'm going to, can I save to this desktop? Sure. So I'm going to save this. And then I'm also going to save it. I don't have any idea where it's saving to. But I'm also going to save it as a PDF. Oh. It's saving, I have it on my jump drive, that's where it's saving. All right, so you asked about a screen reader. So the reader in Adobe isn't as good as the Read-Write-Fold or JAWS or something that probably someone who is blind would have, because they probably would have a better tool. But it is something that can give you an idea of how your document will be read. And I always think it's very ironic that in order to, so if I can't see well, or if I'm visually impaired, and I want to have this document read to me, I have to go to the View tab.
That is
Right. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom where it says Read Out Loud, and I'll activate the Read Out Loud. And then I have to go back to that tab, and I can say Read this page only. And I don't know if the sound is on.
Minimize the use of color. Avoid using text boxes. Use the tab key rather than the space bar and indenting of spacing. Use simple tables and designate header rows. Name date, course lesson, Ginger, January 22nd, 16, economics opportunity cost, Alex, January 22nd, 16, economics types of economies. Use text to provide a clear description of the website link rather than just the URL. Buffalo State Accessibility website, http://ir.buffalostate.edu/Microsoft Office.html. Provide alt text tags for all images and tables. Use styles for consistency.
Saying you can,
Use
see,
the
and it actually
accessibility
didn't
check
read,
check for other
again, it's not as good as a text reader, so it didn't pick up the image, it skipped over it, but
Did it
better-
skip the image because of the alt tag being null? Because historically.
oh, you know
that's
what, that's a good
what alt
question.
text
I don't
does
think
do.
so, I'm pretty sure not.
Would you
I
mind?
can check.
If your alt text is null, wouldn't it read null?
I think that it does. Again, that might be something that would vary amongst the different screen readers. Some screen readers might just skip null and some might.
Because
read
historically, that's what null meant, was to skip
Right.
over.
I would say no, yeah, the person saying no, so that's the opposite authority.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and
Well,
close
no,
this
you
if
are.
no one has any questions because I want to talk to you for a few minutes about PowerPoint. Microsoft PowerPoint again. So if you flip over the handout that you have, there's a checklist for PowerPoint. And the first thing that it says is apply all applicable recommendations from the Microsoft Office Word Accessibility Checklist. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is simple as best. Minimize the use of color. You can save PowerPoint files as without the X on it. I don't know what the abbreviation is, but you can save it in the older format. You can save PowerPoint files as a PDF. So a lot of these same things will follow over to PowerPoint too. So in addition to that, you want to ensure that slides are readable. So they suggest the best fonts are Tahoma or Arial. Recommended size for important things, for kind of your key points, are 32. You want to make your key points smaller than that. And that's really, for, not for online necessarily, but for someone, Melanie, can you see my key points? Have you ever been, seen a presentation where you can't? Yeah, right, and it's sometimes a little challenging. The other thing is the contrast of color, and this is a really big one in PowerPoint. In some of their preloaded, designs and templates, especially when you start adding the hyperlinks and things like that, the light yellow, and you want to think about the contrast. You want to have high contrast. My PowerPoints are usually pretty boring because I have usually a light background and probably black or dark gray or dark blue text because I want to make sure that the text, and I don't have a lot of watermarks and things behind because sometimes they make it hard to see the text. So those are things that you want to talk about. Other things, for people who are colorblind, red, orange, and green, are the most troublesome colors. So if you can avoid those colors, sometimes you have to use them. Orange is our campus color. So it's a little challenging, I have a template from Buffalo State, and actually I asked our graphic designer to we asked our graphic designer to make some changes to the template because the template, it needed to be tweaked. And there are other templates that I don't think are as good as this one for accessibility. So this one is really a best practice, even more so than accessibility. You want to avoid having too much text on the slide just because, again, it makes the text just too small and it's hard to read. The other thing is that, if you have a lot of text on here, you guys might be trying to read that. It's hard for you to read that and listen to me, so you might be, only getting one or the other. So you don't want to put too much content on a slide. You want to provide alt text tags for images and tables. So in PowerPoint, same thing, so you can right click on it. That shape, it's right here. And the same thing for the image, format picture, it's this size and properties. I can it's really easy. And actually for PowerPoints, I've had faculty members who've gone back, so maybe I'm teaching biology and the image is a cell. And, they put the descriptive text in there and they say there's students who can see are like looking at the descriptive text as well because it's helpful for them too. So the next thing is avoid transition and animations unless there's a pedagogical reason for doing them because sometimes they're distracting. Sometimes there is a pedagogical reason for doing that, but maybe I have on a slide, 6 things that I want to talk about, but I don't want them to see the, when I'm talking about the first one, I don't want the other ones to be showing. So we have a reason to do it, but to do it like just to do it, sometimes, maybe you're doing it to add emphasis to it, but it's actually distracting some students and making it harder for them to pay attention.
How do screen readers handle transitions of those nature?
I honestly don't know. I think they skip them. I'm pretty sure. I can actually go back to my campus to find out, but I'm pretty sure that they don't read them. Next, so this actually makes things much easier, but again, something I didn't know. You want to use a predefined slide layout whenever you can. So if I'm adding a slide, I want to choose one of these layouts because the screen reader will know how to read things in order if I do that. If I just have a blank slide and then I'm inserting pictures and inserting things, the screen reader, like whatever order you put it in, I think, is how the screen reader will read it. Or does it read it backwards?
No, I think it reads it.
So whatever order you put it in is how it's going to read it, but you don't always necessarily want it read that way. So it's really best to just stick with the layout of the slides that they have.
So the orientation, like if that picture was right next to the table, it's going to read it when you put the picture.
Right, and I actually did use a predefined layout. I used this one, and I just, put one up high and one, I just moved it around, but it is a predefined one.
And
So it should read.
you can have a different layout for each different slide, right?
Yes, but you just don't want to start from a blank slide and put everything in yourself. But you can do that, and I'll show you how to, that's the last thing actually I'm going to show you, is how to see what the reading order is and make sure that the reading order that's reading.
But this is only for text-based slides that we're concerned with here, right? Not images.
Well, you want the description of an image to show up at a certain point during the.
Right, if you just had one image on there,
Right,
then it wouldn't
okay.
matter. This is another, easy thing to do, but something that I didn't know about, and something that the accessibility checker is going to
I
catch.
just want to interject right now. I've known Ginger since 2013. Used to work with her. She keeps saying something she didn't know. We're going back. She has been accessibility guru on the
Yeah, I
campus.
see, I took a course in college, I
Right.
used Microsoft.
Right.
you
We're
know,
not talking like
Office.
last week. She didn't know
Right.
about it like 4 years ago.
But
She
in
didn't
this
know.
course, no one ever taught me, and no one ever pointed out any of these things to me.
They don't do it in our course here.
Right. So, and actually, I'm kind of excited because our department on campus is being redesigned, and we are now going to be responsible. So before, instructional design provided training, for online courses and for Blackboard and things like that. But there was another department that provided training for office products, and we tried. Can you please just teach? When you're teaching them how to use Word anyway, can you just teach them how to do it in an accessible way? It's we just never could get that to work. And now with the new reorganization, we are going to take on Microsoft Office products, and I'm so excited about it because now I don't have to go to 2 different trainings to learn how to make an accessible Word document.
Feel about that?
Right, he's not in.
Oh, well, that's probably what it is.
He's in project management now. And he's actually retiring very, very soon,
That's a wise.
maybe in a month or so. So that makes the change a little bit easier too.
That's great.
So the other thing that you want to do, kind of like with the headings, is that you want to give each slide a unique name. So I have 3 slides in a row that are called Microsoft PowerPoint, and I actually did it the right way first. So I did Microsoft PowerPoint tables and images, alt text tags, but then I wanted the accessibility checker to pick up some things, so I took that out. So I do have 3 slides that are the same, but the same thing. So if the student is going from slide to slide looking for a specific slide, if there are 3 slides that have the same name, it makes it more difficult for them. So, and it could even be, PowerPoint 1, PowerPoint 2, it just makes it a little bit easier.
I mean, you can even give something a hidden title. You can even give it a title and then set the title to not display, so the screen reader can read the title. But visual students don't even see it.
Okay, so the next,
Well, that's all technique.
ensure that, so, we go to the next slide. Ensure that the text reader will read each slide in a logical order. So this is where you just want to make sure that it's reading things the way that you want, in the order that you want. And this says if you're using objects that are not part of the predefined layout. So this really, you really probably only need to do this if you created your own slide without using the template. So I always forget how to do this. So I made a slide that says how to do this. Because it's not in an intuitive place. So on the Home tab, you go to the drawing group over here, and, oh, I'm sorry, you hit Arrange. And then in this selection pane, it comes up and and this is another weird thing. So it actually will read things from the bottom going up. So the first thing it's going to read is the title, and then it's going to read this, what's in this content placeholder. And you can click on it to see what it's talking about. So it'll read the title first, and then it'll read what's in here. So that's fine. But if you had 5 different things on here, you can click on each thing, and again, it reads from the bottom up. So the first thing would be on here, and the next thing, so you could just, and you can move it to make sure, just drag it and move it to, if you wanted to read it in a different order. But that's where you would check that. If you're sharing your slides online with students, you can use the notes section for text that you might speak during a lecture. When I'm creating screen capture presentations, so sometimes I'll use Camtasia or Screencast-O-Matic and I'll use PowerPoint, so I pull up PowerPoint, I put it in Present, and then I capture my screen while I'm talking as a way to provide like an information video. And I actually, while I'm creating it, use the notes section to create my script, because then I have a script for the video. So that can be helpful for students. Again, if you're sharing it electronically, it helps them remember what you talked about. Maybe in class it was face-to-face, they have that extra resource. And if audio is embedded into a PowerPoint, you want to make sure that it is accessible, so it either has a transcript or closed captioning for videos. And then you also can use the accessibility checker in PowerPoint. Okay, go to File, check for issues, check accessibility, the same thing. So I'm going to get rid of this. So it says I'm missing alt text on both of these, which I do. So I can right click, go to Format Shape, and I can go ahead and just put in my, and that one disappears. So I can go to the next one. Hopefully I spelled wall right. And then that one disappears. So the next thing is picking up is this link, but I know I wanted you to be able to, I will share this presentation, I can give it to Ellen, but I wanted you to be able to write down the actual link so you can access it. So I'm okay with that one. And then it's telling me the duplicate slide title. So, again, I knew that. So this one I could change to Microsoft PowerPoint alt text tags. And this one I could change to Microsoft PowerPoint reading order. And then it would be just helpful. And again, you have which I think is really great, is it tells you why to fix it as well as how to fix it. So it's just, the information is actually right in there. They have it built in to the program. So I'm going to go close all of this. So accessibility checker is available in Microsoft Office 2010 and forward. Unfortunately, it's not in, if you at home have 2003 or 2007, it isn't available for those versions. And it's not available in Office 2011 software for Macs, unfortunately. Questions?
In Microsoft Word, as you know, there are dozens of templates for like brochures and proposals and all kinds of stuff, and they have sidebars and text boxes and so on. I assume those templates are designed with accessibility in mind, right?
I wouldn't assume that. But I would do.
You can still check it, but
Yeah.
probably it's safer than going in and putting your own stuff in.
Probably.
Okay.
But I would do the same thing. Use the accessibility checker,
Yeah.
see how it is. You can save it as a PDF and see how Adobe Reader reads things, because if things could be, in crazy order.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a great question though.
The reason why I asked is because my students in my technical writing classes design their documents as a graphic design element. And I used to have them just, open up a document and just put text boxes in, so I'm sure it's totally inaccessible.
Right.
Now, I'm having them use templates.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And so I was just assuming that they would
Yeah,
be.
I mean, and that's actually a great learning lesson for them.
Yeah.
Because, and that's the thing, sometimes depending on what program students are in, like this might be really good information for them. So I have a teaching background, I did education. This would be a great thing for if I was, teaching, future educators. This would be great, great thing to teach them. Because K-12 people need to do the same thing. They need to know how to do it. So same thing for design or
No, I never learned when I was getting.
right. And again, I said this earlier in the other workshop. Like I think just since the lawsuits and things have started happening, this is on everybody's mind. 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, like we were thinking accessibility in a physical space, not in an online space. And so, I think with the growth of technology and the growth of online, it's just it's kind of just really beginning to, they were thinking about it.
And I had one more quick question. You mentioned hyperlinks earlier, and they do not appear on screen readers, or they do? If there's just a hyperlinked word, like you see.
So if I do Buffalo State website, it's
Yeah.
gonna read, it'll say, I don't know, depending on the screen reader, it might say link and then say where it's going, or it
Okay.
might read Buffalo State website and it'll say hyperlink. So they'll know it's a hyperlink. They'll know what it is,
Okay.
and they'll know whether or not they want to click on it. So maybe they just want to read the document and then go back to it.
Okay.
Um,
So basically, if a word, like in so many journalistic articles these days, words are hyperlinked, phrases are hyperlinked,
yeah.
those are picked up by screen readers?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing, really important. So I don't know how many of you were in Megan's session earlier about the Access MOOC. I was. Okay, so if you weren't, we are part of an IITG to design an accessibility MOOC, a massive open online course. Although at this point, we have like 800 and something. It's not really massive at this point. But that's okay. But we've worked really hard as a collaboration between Buffalo State and Empire State, and it's in Canvas. So if you want to write this down, if you're interested in it, you want to go to canvas.net, and that's the LMS, and then you can just search accessibility and you'll find the course. It starts February 22nd. The first session is facilitated for 6 weeks, so all the people who are creating it will be in there facilitating it. And then after it runs for 6 weeks, it's going to be offered on demand. But it's going to be great because we have interviews with students with disabilities that kind of let them know like where some of their barriers are, and the things that they struggle with. We have demonstrations of students using screen readers, so if you want to know what that's like, you can see a video of a student using it. You can see what it looks like. You can see what it's like for them. All the extra things that they have to go through in order to make, you wouldn't even believe how much longer things take for someone who can't see. Just navigating by the keyboard and
Wear the tab key out.
right. Like so you can just see that perspective, and it's really helpful. We have some clips from Whitney Rapp where we talk about universal design for learning, and then we also have like how-tos with technology in it. So if you're interested in that, you can go to canvas.net and search accessibility. I'm pretty sure it's the only accessibility course, and you'll see that it's Empire State or Empire State, Buffalo State. Any questions? Great. Thank you so much.